Hey, do you want to come over and make a pot of tea, bring your favorite crystals? We could talk about our birth charts, spirits, the latest house spells we've been doing. Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm that witch next door. Hello, neighbor. Welcome back to another episode of That Witch Podcast. I am so excited to get to introduce you to such a wonderful soul today. I am interviewing someone who came into my world kind of not really out of the blue, out of the earth blue, I guess, but spiritually wise, I feel like makes lots and lots of sense. I have Jenna from Naturally Empowered Living here with me today. Jenna, we have a little tradition around here. If you would introduce yourself, and do you know your big three in astrology?
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot. Hi guys, I'm so excited to be here. I have my astrology book right here. I'll have to look. I might have to look. I know so I'm Scorpio. So is that my sun?
Yep.
And then my moon, I'm a Virgo.
Okay.
Do you
know your rising? It's okay if you don't.
I will, because I have a printout. See, this is my...
Oh, I love it. Yes.
I have an astrology book, but as you can tell, it's like not a new passion. I've always been so obsessed with like my horoscopes growing up and things.
Mm-hmm.
But between like human design and astrology, I feel like I really go towards astrology a little bit more. I don't want to combine like compare the two. Let me see here. I'm not sure.
I love this. My little student of astrology. I love this.
I should have it written somewhere, but I'm not sure my rising then.
That's okay. I kind of like this because you let me know after we record today. And when we share the episode, we'll put it as a fun little thing in the caption and everything for all our listeners. Yes, I love it. I love it so much. I am a fellow Scorpio sun, Jenna. There's definitely reasons why you and I connect so easily. My best friend in the whole world is a Virgo moon as well. I have such a soft spot for the Virgo moons. And you guys get kind of a hard rap because Virgo moon doesn't really rest. You guys, you got hard work that you're doing in this life. That is for sure. And it's very apparent by what you do, which I am so excited to get to share with everybody and learn more about today. Jenna, let us know what you do, because I find even just the early descriptions of your business and your title right off the bat so intriguing.
Okay. So one question first, backtracking. Is rising the same as ascendant?
Yes.
Oh, Leo. I'm a Leo.
I knew it. I almost guessed it, which is also my rising. And I knew, I was like, this is a Leo thing. I
want you to dissect that for me. I will answer your question, but I want to get into that too, if that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh gosh. So how I got into this work. I mean, I'm 35 years old and I feel like I didn't know it. Like, what is that soul's purpose? Like, what am I here to do in this life? I mean, when I turned 33, like everything changed. And I mean, my background is in, oncology. Like I went to school, I was a radiation therapist. I worked in the healthcare field and I thought, at that time, it's like, this is it, like I'm helping people. I'm, like that piece was fulfilled and there was still something missing. And I started like an entrepreneurial route back in like 2017 and I started in network marketing and it's like nothing felt right. And then I became a mom and then it's like, whoa, everything, like, wow, my whole life, like, let's just open this can of worms, right? And let's really just get to the thick of it and rip the Band-Aid off. And I feel like the more that I dive into kind of the path that I came into now, I work like in subconscious work. I work in energetics. I work with really like getting to those core things within us of why we are the way that we are, why we act the way we act, why our reality is the reality that we have today. And I mean, I guess I started, my little story here back when I was in oncology, but like going way back, fast forwarding when I was younger, I was a big emotions kid. I was I cried every day on the first day of school until probably middle school. I, would always have these big emotions. Like I never wanted to get on stage during music recitals. And I would I still hear those stories. And it's just like those things that just poke at you. Right. And that, like, now doing the work of where I'm at now, like I learned how important your self-love and your self-love or self-trust and self-worth is. And I didn't have it because I felt like I was just, it's not okay to cry. You got to step it up. You got to, it's not okay to feel. It wasn't okay to feel. That's how I at least perceived, where I was coming. And yeah, I mean, I've always been fascinated with like psychology. So I love like merging the science with like the energetics. And when I was 33, I call it the spiritual awakening that I am conscious of. I feel like there was a couple more that I really didn't understand at the time. But when I was 33, the experience that I had, it was just completely like slap in the face. Jenna, if you haven't gotten, all these signs up to this point, here it is. And now it's like, I've just been backtracking and just the epiphanies and everything, that led me to this moment. It's just so divine.
That's amazing. What would you say your title is? We know that your podcast, the name of your business, I love the image this already evokes, naturally empowered living.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call yourself? What's your title?
Yeah, so I'm a Root Cause Therapy Practitioner. So Root Cause Therapy is that subconscious work that I do. And I'm also certified in Reiki and Angel Reiki and instinctive meditation. So I'm an instinctive meditation teacher, let's say, but I kind of like the root cause therapy. That's it. And then I'm able to still bring in the energy, the energetics and the meditation, the nervous system regulation. And it kind of, all cups in together.
This is so, so cool because with your medical background and training,
Mm-hmm.
and I have always been so fascinated about that gap that many of us
Mm-hmm.
are already interested in bridging or already is bridged in our minds.
Mm-hmm.
There are many of us that spirituality and energetics are not separate from medicine and science, and one does not cancel out the other. And for some of us, we come into this, I think, through different experiences, and for some of us, those things always made sense together, and leaving one out was always creating a disservice to the other one, essentially. Yeah. And so this is a huge, huge reason why I am automatically so fascinated and intrigued in your work, because I'm definitely one of those people that I've almost even tried to separate these things at different points in my life, because we live in a time and culture and society where that's kind of the expected, and that's kind of what you're supposed to do, or how a lot of these things get taught to us or exemplified to us. And there has always been this nagging part at me that these realms are all part of our universe, and right, this massive umbrella. And so I think it's so interesting. I would love for you to elaborate a little bit on this. You said that you started out in oncology, and there really was definitely this box being checked of like helping people. Mm-hmm. But then you described this missing piece, this missing element. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit what that felt like, what that was like that led you to embracing the energetics?
Yeah. Oh, great question. So it really was, I mean, you could call it so many different things in terms of like not feeling fulfilled, or like just having like this inner knowing of like, is this it? Like, is this it in my life? And I just felt like this robot and just conditioned, and like I wasn't me, you know? And I mean, in that time I graduated college. I started working in oncology. I met my husband within weeks after moving and starting my job. So like it, again, divine, like the story with him and I is just, yeah. But like so much happened, right? And I struggled a lot in college too with alcohol, with an eating disorder, with really just, there was so much, because that was the first time I was ever away from home. That was the first time. And I'm sure so many people can relate to that. If, you know, went away for school, it's almost like, here you go, you know, like you're 18 years old and it's like, here's life. Well, what does that bring? It brings partying if you're open to that, you know, piece. But like here I was, this vulnerable, what have you. And I was susceptible to, you know, I got into the bad crowd, which I mean is very common in that regard. And I let a lot of vices and crutches get to me because I was in a high demand, you know, medical field within college, and all these firsts, right? First time being away from home. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? So a lot of pressure and stress. So fast forward, you know, in working in oncology and as a radiation therapist, it was that sense of like, is this it? I mean, that's just the one thing that keeps coming to me is like, this is really the rest of my life. Really? And I listened. I listened to that pull. You know, I listened to, this doesn't have to be it. You know, why am I unhappy? Like I have the love of my life. You know, we are inseparable. I have, you know, my first house. I have, you know, we got a puppy. Like I have all these things. Why am I still not feeling like, why am I still asking myself that question? Like, is this it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it kind of comes back to, you know, that self-trust, that self-love, that self-worth, that so many of us, we miss that mark because we're so consumed with the shoulding. We're so consumed with the external expectations that we're shoving and quieting what's going on inside. And that's what's most important.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So before I ask you my next question, I'm going to answer your question first about your big three, because I hear so many of them in the answers to your questions.
Really?
So I too, like I said, am a Scorpio sun and a Leo rising. Now, depending on the exact degree of these two things, they might not be in what we call an exact square, but in general, Leo and Scorpio have a little bit of a friction between the two of them. They square each other on the zodiac chart. They're 90 degrees apart. And they challenge each other. They both have they have like those right similarities in the right way that kind of almost rub against one another. And Scorpio is incredibly motivated by and naturally lives in the subterranean. Just anything deeper than the first few layers, that is the home of Scorpio. And quite frankly, regardless of your Scorpio placements, if you have Scorpio, you know, wherever you have Scorpio in your chart is what I should say. These are those areas of life that like this surface level, small talks type, just take what's kind of like given to you on the surface will just never cut it. It's going to be those areas of life where you'll never, ever, ever be able to just accept what's on the very surface. Now, Leo operates in the surface a lot, not because it is superficial or it's surface only. It's because the Leo journey takes place in everything that has to do with being seen and being on stage. So what you see, that surface level, is a huge part of Leo's journey and where it has to operate in order to learn what it needs to learn. These two energies in our chart can have this push and pull for so much of our lives. And like, I can relate so deeply to what you're talking about being a big feeling kid, not having the safety of expression of that. And I was literally just having this conversation with my husband about that last night. It was so crazy you said that. Literally was just explaining very similar upbringing where I was like, I was talking about my daughter and about how sensitive and emotional she can be, not in a bad way at all. And I was like, I wonder if I would have, been really similar had I felt safe to express myself the way that she is safe to
Mhm.
express herself. I wonder if a lot of us would have been labeled what we call that. Yes.
Mhm.
So I relate to that very, very much. And this fear of feeling, especially outwardly, definitely translates into this keeping a little bit hidden until it's safe. That is definitely a very classic Scorpio default setting. Let me observe first, wait for it's safe, and then emerge
Mhm.
kind of a deal. Yet Leo has this very deep natural calling to be seen, to express, and really to be taken in all of its glory. And so they can have this really strong push and pull throughout our life. Ultimately, both of those things challenging each other creates, as I'm sure you can also attest to in so many of your life experiences, I've learned so much from that
Oh
push
yeah.
and pull within myself. I've
Mhm.
learned so much about myself in allowing both parts of myself to exist in that way and to just be
Mhm.
complex and not one or the other.
Mhm.
You add your Virgo moon into all of this, and one of Virgo's main, most natural love languages is in the stream of acts of service for others and being given. This is a huge, huge value to Virgo because Virgo is a very action oriented sign. They don't sit by and
Mhm.
watch. Virgo is in there with you, next to you, helping you, very much a part of the solution and not just poking out the problems. I mean,
Mhm.
really in there and interactive with the improvement process. And so it's just very, very cool listening to your story and hearing these different parts of your astrology like that shine out while you're talking. But yeah, I love your big three a lot, and I relate very much since I share a couple with you.
That's so cool. And I feel like your podcast, I mean, apparently I haven't listened to like guest podcasts because I wasn't ready for that. But like your Moon Day, that's what you call it, right?
Hmm.
Monday, Moon Day. Oh, like I love listening to those because I'm so fat. It's like a side passion. I obviously, as you can tell, I don't bring it into my work so much. But it's so cool to read about it. And I relate to so much of like what I learn. I have all my family's charts, that
Yes. Oh, and it's so
yeah,
helpful. It's so helpful
it is.
in learning the people around us. Yes. So there is that for you, my dear. Now,
Yeah.
we've all got to know. I'm gonna get to root cause therapy, but I'm gonna ask more about root cause therapy. So before I get there, I want to ask you to elaborate first on extinctive meditation
Mm,
because meditation and the meditative mindset is something that I talk about a lot.
mhm.
And it's something that I think is sorely misunderstood, like
Oh,
very, very misunderstood. And when I hear you use this pairing of words, instinctive meditation,
mm.
I'm already speaking your language. And I would love for you to elaborate on that for us a little bit, both in how you would define it and, how you do this work with your clients.
Yeah. Oh, ooh, great question. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I'm a big storyteller. So, that big spiritual awakening that I was saying when I was 33, I remember the next morning after I was like sobbing in my car. Jace went to school. My oldest went to school. My youngest, I just dropped her off at daycare. She goes a couple days a week. And I remember sobbing in my car, like, what the F just happened? Like, where am I? Like, what is going on? Like, but it was so beautiful too, because like, I remember waking up and being like, things are clearer. Like the tree, like I'm looking outside at the trees right now, like they were crisper and like things were just so much sharper. But I'm like, what the frick? Like, what is happening? And I remember this download just came in like, healer, you are a healer. And then like energy. And I kept seeing all these like numbers and like I kept seeing like in my imagination and my third eye, well, whatever you want to call it, I kept seeing like just these graphics, an energy healer, and this is where you're called, and like all this stuff. And it was just such a beautiful unfolding. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. Like, let's open this can of worms. I grew up Catholic. Like, I am a confirmed Catholic. So it was very much treading water. Like, there were big time spiritual warfare. Like, God, you're here. Like, you're with me. But I believe in this, but for so long, it was so suppressed. It was so suppressed. So yeah, I kind of went the energy route, like getting certified in energy healing and angel Reiki and things like that first. And then after that, I'm like, I'm so thankful. Like I have this foundational knowledge, but this isn't it. This isn't it. And when I became a mom, so this was back in 2019, I struggled, as I'm sure we all do, the postpartum fog. And I was meditating without realizing I was meditating. Like that was my calm. And, when I was nursing Jace, like, of course, you kind of get stuck in the scroll sometimes, but like, that was when I would like take my fivers. We still call them fivers. Like, let me go take a fiver. Let me just gather myself for a minute. So I learned like I was meditating. Like, this is what I was doing. I thought meditation was supposed to be like silencing your mind, like Zen, but I still use the word Zen, but like I thought it was supposed to be like silencing your mind, shoving everything out and like just being being empty. Right. And I'm like, but that's not what I was doing. So after I got certified in energy healing, like we had a little like farewell call because there were other people in the cohort and it's like, what's next? And I'm like, I'm feeling called because I was working solely with moms at this time. And I'm like, I'm feeling called to become a meditation teacher, but I'm very like strict, I want something specific because this is like, I had this inner knowing again, like I wanted something specific and I'm like, I'm going to have to do a lot of research because I'm not just going to go sign up for any willy-nilly meditation certification course. And someone suggested, Radiance, Instinctive Meditation, the Radiance Sutras, Lauren Roche and Camille Maureen. And I'm like, oh, I've never heard of them. Great. Let me look it up. It was like instantly, I was like, oh, this is it. Everything happens like that, like this is it. I knew it like within the second. I didn't even have to do research. It was just that sign, like, thank you to that blessed soul that, sent me that little message back saying you should look into this. And instinctive meditation. I love Lauren and Camille because they're in like their late 70s, maybe early 80s. They have been in this field of work since the 60s. Like, wow. Lauren got into this when he was in college and he signed up for just some blind case study. And here he was, it was a meditation case study. And he's like, I was in this room for hours at a time and I just had these nodes hooked up to me. And it's like, what's going on? So that's kind of where his, inspiration came from. And obviously, decades and decades collaboratively together, they've had experience and they're teaching, like they're almost like unconditioning the societal conditioning of what meditation is, because it's not about silencing your mind. It's not about, emptying out. It's allowing what's meant to be coming up. It's allowing what's meant to be processed and trusting yourself. Like your body wants to heal. Your body instinctively, it wants to heal. It wants to process. It wants you to live a luxurious, like fulfilling life, however that is for you, and to fulfill, like your life, like your life here. And to me, that's like living in joy and peace and ease, like doing what you're meant to do, what you're called to do. And it was a beautiful 6-month journey. And after that, though, I was still like, I'm glad I have this knowledge, but this still isn't it. But like I have that knowledge now of like honoring all parts of ourselves. That's where I really fell in love with shadow work and like, like let's pull that out from under the rug, because I thought I'm supposed to shove it under the rug, and suppress it and not if I don't worry about it, it's not here. But our subconscious, it's going to keep poking and prodding and showing you things and giving you experiences until you're ready to face it and go through it.
So would you say that a meditative mindset is important for us to allow ourselves to achieve, because a lot of our healing can take place in this space.
Mm-hmm. I'm very open to you finding what works for you. Like, you can meditate. My husband is an avid hunter, avid shed hunter. His meditative state is out in the woods.
Exactly.
It could be cooking. It could
Yep.
be journaling. You know, in my phase of life right now, it is lighting a candle, having some sage, and silencing. It is silencing my mind right now because I have 2 little ones at home, right? Like, I do want in this season to just be and allow, you know, like, I forgot what I was supposed to do this morning. It's going to come up. I trust it's going to come up if it's meant to. So it's just like giving myself that space to like process the chaos that we just went through all morning. You know, I'm going to have this 20 minutes of just, whew.
Yes. Yeah. So true. And I'm so glad that you brought up shadow work, because this is exactly why it's important. Because when you don't know what shadow work is and you don't know what your shadows are, it feels really scary when they come up, even though it's not scary. And this is your subconscious's way of trying to communicate with you, and like, exactly like you said, give you the opportunity to process what needs to be processed, what ultimately needs to be integrated. Our default action is the opposite. Right. Get it as far away from me as humanly possible. And, you know, practitioner after practitioner in pretty much any mode of healing will tell you that it all ends up coming back around to integration. It comes back around to this holistic acceptance. And so this is, I knew that this would lead us perfectly into root cause therapy. So tell us how you would kind of define that, and how it differs from some traditional therapies.
Good question. So root cause therapy, this was, again, a 3 a.m. Google search. Like, I'm looking for something very specific. I don't know. Are you familiar with the emotion code by Dr. Bradley Nelson?
Oh, it's at least been recommended to me. It sounds extremely, extremely familiar. Yes.
So I was reading that, I think, while I was going through the instinctive meditation certification. And I was like, this might be my next route, because he was a chiropractor, and just through working with his clients and things, he learned a way to like release unprocessed emotions. Fascinating book. I do highly recommend it. Like, because it's basically just a whole case study, and he shares, you know, testimony after testimony. It's really, really neat. But it was just like, it might be it, but it wasn't like a hell yes, right? And it was a 3 a.m., you know, wake up call, and I Googled, because I'm like, I just felt, I always am like, when I was younger, I remember like sitting in my bathroom if I was really like upset, and I'd be like getting to the root in my belly. You know, like, I'm upset. Okay, why? Well, because this happened. Okay, why? You know, I kept asking myself until like I felt satiated, you know, like satisfied. Like, okay, like this is it. And now let's work through it. Because it's always so surface level to start until we start unraveling, right? So I forget what I Googled, but I remember it was a 3 a.m. wake up call. I Googled, and Root Cause Therapy Center for Healing. They're based out of Australia. And I was like, this is it. This is it. So they got started. It was a trauma and addiction focused, like healing trauma, healing addiction. Because they both, it was a duo again. They both struggled a lot with trauma and upbringing. And, you know, it was very much so with drug addiction and things like that. However, the more that they, you know, evolved, and like the more people that they helped, it was a modality that they found could be used for anything in terms of, you know, just addiction, mental health, overall wellness, spirituality, just like your development, because you're getting to that root of where your emotions or where your energy is stuck within your body. In terms of, let's see, I want to backtrack a little bit here, because it's where, if you're younger and you have an experience, right? 2 people could have the same experience. One could get a compounded stuck emotion from that experience, and the other one could have had a stable nervous system, whatever. There's so many different things that could happen, but they could have been able to process it in that moment. If someone's system was overwhelmed, they couldn't process this experience, this emotion. It's not so much the experience that traumatized them, because this person's had the same experience, they're fine, quote unquote. It's when your body is overloaded and you're not able to process said experience. And then you get that emotion gets stuck within your body and it starts to compound. And the more times that you have a similar experience, that's where a trigger can come up. That's where things can start to just compound in terms of you're like, have you ever thought like, gosh, I keep having the same thing happen to me over and over again. Like, why does this keep happening to me? Right. Like it could be as surface level as seeing the same color car, but it could be as deep as like having the same relationship struggles over and over and over. So rather than focusing on the symptom that a lot of, let's say, talk therapy or a lot of things focus on, what's happening in the here and now, the conscious awareness, root cause therapy works a lot in the subconscious, because I'm sure you've talked about this on the show. That's like 90% of what we are. 80 to 90% is all that subconscious programming. Well, that stuck emotion is in that subconscious. You might not realize, like, oh, I'm having the same thing happen because when I was 5 years old, I was left at the supermarket and it was so traumatizing to me. Yes, my parents found me. I'm happy. I'm fine. Everything's safe. But in that moment, I had abandonment issues. And now you're growing up and having these experiences of abandonment because said, emotion was never processed. So root cause therapy really addresses that subconscious, gets to that subconscious root cause of said experience, said emotion, physical, mental, spiritual issues, rather than focusing on the symptoms, the surface level conscious awareness. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And so, okay, so I have two questions. The first one I'm going to ask you is, because of your area of expertise and your services, what do you find are some of the biggest or the biggest challenge that most clients are facing when they seek you? Where are most people coming from when they're seeking root cause therapy? What kind of state of their life are they in?
It's that rat race. It's that overwhelm. I work a lot with mental health. I find myself working in mental health a lot. The anxiety, the overwhelm, the burnout. I mentioned earlier that I was solely working with moms for so long until probably about this last year. I rebranded. Andrea has been a godsend for me, just in helping me kind of work through, it's a big change to change kind of like who, quote unquote, you're talking to. I work with a lot of moms still, but it's more so like mental health is such a big struggle. And like, we can raise that baseline. I talk a lot about like finding your energy of alignment, because we're not meant to feel stressed all the time. Like we're not meant to live in this anxious, overwhelmed, burnout state. Like in people, it's like, oh, well, it's too good to be true, or you have it, this way. That's where we got to dive into. That is where we need to start, because it is like you are capable. No one else is more able or lucky or, willing to live in the state of happiness than you. And it's just such a big passion of mine, because that's like where I was, living in that woe with me. I had a moment over the weekend and I'm like, Jameson, I'm really sorry. Like, I'm not myself. And I feel like me years ago, because like, what's going on with me? But yeah, like we're never going to be perfectly healed. But to me now, I'm like, ooh, let's get into this. Like where am I being triggered? What's being, stemmed here? Because like I'm feeling things that I haven't felt in a long time. And now I'm like excited. I'm like eager to get through this too.
I explain this to people a lot. It's not that this mindset and this type of inner healing work solves everything forever. Right. But it does completely transform how you approach yourself when things do inevitably come up, either in your external world or in your internal world, because both, it's going to happen the rest of your life. And how I respond to myself now is a 180 of how I used to respond to myself over and over and over again. And now, instead of experiences like these, like adding another pack onto my back and like weighing me down and weighing me down, these are all opportunities for growth. They all end up bringing me closer to authentic alignment. I get to know myself a little bit more, a little bit more. I learn how to meet my needs a little bit more each time. And as, you know, from two people telling you, like, living in both ways, I will take the latter. It is a much more pleasant experience, but it's much more purpose filled, honestly. There's so much more fulfillment there. So my other question that I had for you, Jenna, is can you tell us a little bit about what a root cause therapy session looks like then? What does that, are these certain questions that you ask? What kind of elements do you incorporate into your sessions with your clients?
Oh, great question. I was actually going to be recording videos on this later today. So it's so beautiful because yes, I am your guide. I am your practitioner. I am, leading you through this 1.5 hour, 2 hour session together. However, if you and me were in a session together, if you were one of my clients, someone I was working with, you are guiding yourself. And I am just that channel to be able to help you tap into your subconscious. And it very much is like, I call it like a meditation, like a guided meditation, but we're talking through the whole thing. You are fully conscious. It's not any sort of hypnotherapy. We go through, there's a little bit of like intake and like a consult prior. So like I'll have you fill out an intake form just for like some demographic-y type things, telling me about your family history. Tell me about you. Why are you here? Just to get to know you a little bit more. And then once the session starts, we'll talk about your present life. Like, I'll speak emotions to you, anger, guilt, sadness, and you're telling me the first thing that comes to your mind. So we're kind of doing a little bit of practice work and let's tap into that subconscious. Let's bridge that conscious and subconscious a little bit. So it's like a twofold session. The first session is talking about you, your present life, going through those emotions, just kind of doing those practices. And then we get into a sway test. So we do some muscle testing. And then we'll test limiting beliefs and I'll walk you through everything. I'll walk you through, how the sway test works. We'll do like calibration, like I'll know your name. So I'll ask you, or I'll, state like, my name is Jenna. And if it was me, I would be swaying forward. If I say my name is Bob, I would be swaying backwards. So I'll explain to you what that sway test is and how it works. And that's the first half, and then the second half, we kind of get into that healing. And that's where the guided meditation comes in. And it's so beautiful that based on that sway test that we do, we'll kind of get a starting point of where should we start? And the sway test I'm asking, it's not questions. I'm saying like I am statements. So like I am alone. And then this person will either sway forward or sway backwards. So it's a whole list of these limiting beliefs, if you will. And after we finish the sway test, then we'll dive into, based on what their goal is, why are they here? We'll look at that list and be like, okay, are you okay with starting here? And then we'll dive into that meditation or the root cause therapy session. I like to call it a meditation, which takes about another 45 minutes to an hour. And it's just this beautiful, beautiful, the experiences that I've had. I mean, and the client, I love being that witness, of course, but then coming back for session 2, it's just like, you're a completely different person because you're releasing all these emotions, all this stuck energy that you've been carrying for years, possibly decades of your life. And it's so beautiful.
Wow. That's so cool. So incredibly fascinating. Wow. So, Jenna, my last question for you today then is, what would you say to that person right now that is hearing this and is feeling so lost, so crippled by confusion or feeling misguided or overwhelmed, and doesn't even know that first step to take? What would you say to that person?
Oh, that's such a good question. I've had like 3 different things just fled my mind. The first is to just breathe. First, like, let's just breathe. And I would love to be able to, just be able to talk to them about what's on your mind right now. Like, that would probably be the very first step. Like, tell me what is going on. And then bringing that awareness piece, bringing that awareness in. Awareness and attention, you kind of touched on that without really saying the words, but having that awareness and attention for your life, because the awareness piece, I feel once we have the awareness, then we're like, oh shit, like this isn't okay. This isn't okay. I shouldn't be feeling this. Oh, I'm feeling so overwhelmed. I'm comfortable in this cycle. Now I'm aware of it. Now I'm going to take 5 steps back because it's scary now. And I open this can of worms and things seem harder. But like, my friend, like that is the first step that so many people don't take. That's just the missing link. That awareness is so, so crucial. And something else that I would say too is, I wouldn't probably say this in the first conversation, just because that first conversation would really just be like that empathizing piece, that like giving that safe container of like, what's going on, like you're safe. Let's kind of just be able to release a little bit, verbally. But I know that could be overwhelming in itself too. So kind of just giving that safe space. But something also I feel the need to share is it's okay to be all of yourself. And that's something that I know so many, like this is maybe a few steps forward, because a lot of times, there is so much baggage that we have suppressed or repressed that makes us not feel safe in our own skin. There's the rebel in me, there's all these different characters within our lives that we are. And once we learn, even if we don't welcome them yet, we could honor them because they make us who we are. And that honoring piece of allowing yourself to be yourself, like that is like the ultimate goal, because then we could step into that energy of alignment and be unapologetically ourselves. But it's really just that, like, you are you for a reason. And it's just helping someone get to that point of opening the door to work on loving themselves again. Because so many people think it's so woo and like, whatever. And it's like, that's it. Like, that's the foundation to your life, is your love and acceptance of who you are. And then we could, kind of work out.
So true. You are you for a reason is so simple and so incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
I have been one of the many, 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 many people who I know for a fact has had those thoughts. Why am I like this? Why do we honestly, we get frustrated with ourselves and our experience. We probably ask ourselves that a lot more than we realize that we ask ourselves that. And it is so incredibly true. You are you for a reason. Being wholly you is the gift.
Right.
You're giving this world. Exactly.
Well, that's the beauty of life. We're so stuck in this rat race of what? The beauty of life is to be in this constant evolution and growth into who you are, into who you're meant to be. And yeah.
It's so true. Oh, I love it so much. Jenna, we just so naturally align in so much of what we do. And it's why I love talking with you. If you have not already listened, Jenna had me on her podcast for an awesome conversation about the witch wound. And like, there is so much that you and I show up to our work as service providers, and there is plenty that on the surface you could pick out like these differences, different terms, and it's really all the same thing. And it all really boils down to our same universal truths. And it's why you and I are both so incredibly passionate about them. It's really, really amazing. So, Jenna, please tell us, where can we find you? Where can we follow you? How can we support your work?
Oh, thank you so much. And yes, our episode was episode 113 of Naturally Empowered Living. It was such a good thing. And I know that we talked about that on that episode of like, put your terminology in there, whatever you believe in, whatever word resonates with you the most, because the principle, the core of what your message you're trying to get at, it's so parallel, and it's
exactly
the universal truth. I love that you said that. So thank you so much. You naturallyempoweredliving.com. Like, we could start there. I have a podcast, Naturally Empowered Living. I'm kind of sort of on Instagram, Naturally Empowered Living. Social media and me, I'm like working with the kids. It's like too much screen time. But Mommy, you work online. It's like,
I know. Oh, I relate to that so much.
Yeah.
So much.
I know. So it's like I'm on Instagram. I enjoy it. But naturallyempoweredliving.com and my podcast, I mean, that's my home.
Thank you. Everything is in the show notes below. Mine and Jenna's podcast episode, all of the links to get in touch with her, to work with her, to learn more. But Jenna, just thank you. I knew this was going to be such a good conversation. I'm so glad you got to be here with me today.
I am too. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And neighbor, thank you for your time and your energy here with us here today. It means so much. It's how important healing messages like this continue unfolding and getting out into the world. So thank you for being here with us. Make sure, everyone, that you're out there staying safe. Keep letting yourself have some fun. And of course, stay magical, my friends. Did you know about my YouTube channel? Head over to That Witch Next Door on YouTube and hit subscribe, and you can watch the podcast live. Well, it's not live, but it is video, and you do get to see me, and it really does kind of feel like we're hanging out. You can also follow me on Instagram at thatwitch.nextdoor, as well as Threads at the same username. I'm also over on TikTok, Facebook, and even Pinterest. Yes, my millennial heart is not apologetic of that at all. You can get all information in the show notes below, and don't forget to be subscribed to my email newsletter, where I exclusively drop the image for any weekly card readings, as well as exclusive discounts, announcements, releases, and more. You can head to thatwitchnextdoor.com to subscribe to my email list. And again, everything that you need is in the show notes below. Thanks again, neighbor, and I'll see you next time.